What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to Planet Wrestling Podcast, the podcast where we talk all things wrestling, WWE, AEW, indie events, you name it, we talk about it, man. I am one of your hosts, Anthony Zaragoza. With me, as always, I have Rob Estrada, Boo Bro, Hallinghour, and Rampage himself. Let's jump into it, man. I mean, it was a good week of wrestling. I went to my first local indie show. That was a lot of fun. Rob was there to break the cherry. A lot of stuff to talk about. We're going to get into that later on in the show, so stay tuned for that. Let's kick it off this week. Monday Night Raw. Let's start off from the top of the week. Go ahead, Rampage, kick it off, my friend. After you take a sip of your water, man. Get a good first in.
I need to look at the list because I glanced through it.
I'd also like to just talk about how I wrestle every day to get out of bed. The struggle is real. So
I know what that's like. Trust me. I know what that's like. Know what it's like, but I mean, it was a good week to say the least. I mean, a lot of stuff happened with NXT, with Raw, with SmackDown. I didn't get a chance to catch AEW, but I know the other two guys probably did, or they know some stuff that went down.
I glanced through it.
Right.
I was been so busy that it was like.
Well, I think that's the struggle. I think today is I remember growing up, it was Raw pretty much for most of my life. Well, actually, it started off as Saturday morning wrestling.
Yep.
It was like Saturday morning superstars. And then, you had Raw, but now they're giving you so much content. I feel like sometimes it's a good thing. I'm not complaining at all about all the content they give us, but they give us a lot of content. I mean, you have Monday Night Raw, you got NXT. I mean, and then SmackDown. That's if you're just watching WWE. And you also have, for some of us who watch like New Japan, then there's AEW, of course. And so it's just to fit all this wrestling, because you wanna consume it. Like, I want to consume all the wrestling that you're giving me, but sometimes there's just not
enough time in the world.
Not enough time in the world. And then, you have your regular life where you're like, I got to go to work and I can't be watching wrestling at work because that's not a good thing.
Man. I mean, I'm the same way, man. I mean, everybody knows what I do here. I mean, whether it be Nights of Horror, if I'm going out to film some stuff for some friends, or just to hang out with friends, because sometimes I need a break from it all, just to go grab a beer with some friends, or just hang out with some friends, grab some food. So it really is try to hard to keep up with, and I really do try to keep up with it as much as I can.
Well, I was thinking about that today too. I was just like, the thing for me is, obviously I want to watch every Raw that is on, but at the same time, I feel like if you miss a week or two, that's one thing I will say good about Raw, is that, and WWE kind of in general, is if you miss a week or two, I feel like the story is usually around the same spot until you hit like a major kind of pay-per-view event. The story is roughly about the same. So that's one thing I will say I like about WWE and the way they present their product, is that you can not watch for a week or two and get back into it, and you don't feel like you've missed too much, because the story's it takes a while for them to change storylines, so you can just step into beat to what's going on with that company.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I did watch it. I caught myself. It was this week that I haven't had a chance to watch yet.
Right. Monday Night Raw.
Yeah. So they started it with the all the tag teams.
Okay.
All the potential contenders
for Hell in a Cell.
And it is what you expect.
Yeah.
It was, AJ and Omos coming out. Everybody else is in the ring. RK Bro. The interesting thing is that Lince Dorado was kind of on his own, and I feel bad for him because he kind of got almost forgot, just because Grand Metalik is injured. I don't know if that's kayfabe or legit, but he was kind of just out there. You got all these. I mean, he came off well, but it was you gotta feel bad for the guy because he just kind of got
kind of just thrown in there in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think RK Bro is really showing a lot of improvement every week. It's like it is that kind of rookie and pro together where he's trying to just really put him over really well. So it's good to
Oh
see
yeah,
that every week.
and they really pushed that more this week.
Yeah.
And that led, they had a few things in between, just showing the little things like Bobby Lashley and all that stuff. But then they went straight into the battle royal for the contendership
For the are we talking
tag team.
tag team time?
Tag team titles.
Yeah,
So that's for Hell in a Cell, right?
for Hell in a Cell.
Okay.
I think it was for.
I think it's Hell in a Cell is this Sunday, so
Yeah, it was RK Bro, Viking Raiders, New Day, and T-Bar and Mace, and then Lindsay Dorado and John Morrison separate.
nice.
Yeah.
It's like, it was a good match. I mean, you can't. I mean, some of them work a little better than others, but
Can only do so
a lot
much.
of good talent there.
Yeah.
And I feel bad for Lindsay Dorado. I mean, John Morrison's John Morrison. He's like a known quantity, so he doesn't really get quite as lost in the shuffle. But it's
Right.
like you got one like luchador, all these tag teams of big dudes, and then they just kind of like, he's just kind of there.
Yeah.
It's hard to, like, it was nice to see him get a little bit of a spotlight, but he kind of just doesn't have the name for them to be able to do that and not like just get him lost in the midst of everybody else.
Yeah. No, that's and it's something like that where like when you mention names like Randy Orton and John Morrison and whatnot, it's names like those that are actually going to be carrying the new talent to kind of get them over. You know what I mean? Like they're there really to balance out the whole new and old school. You know what I mean? So you're really there to push those characters to further their storylines, further their careers, because essentially they're going to be there a lot longer than the older guys, you know what I mean? And they're really trying to push them to carry the company and to keep it going. That way when a new batch of guys comes, they can do the same thing. So that's usually what those matches are there for, is to just kind of to show like the new guys, hey, this is what you need to do during these situations. This is how you perform it well. And it's really cool to see all that. I'm always a fan of those kind of things.
Yeah.
So
and they had the Viking Raiders go over, which I think that was a good choice.
Bringing them back up into the spotlight again, huh?
And they went over Orton.
Wow.
So I think that's pretty solid.
So they're taking on Styles and Omos for the tag titles on Sunday then, huh?
Yep. The Viking Raiders versus Styles and Omos.
I mean
that's,
it's going to be a good match, but that Omos is unstoppable right now, man.
I don't think the Raiders are going to lose or going to win. Right. I think it would be bad booking to have them win, but at the same time, I mean, I could see them winning, but I think they're going to keep Omos looking strong and AJ looking strong. At least another one. I think as long as the Raiders look good, which I mean they're great in the ring, so I don't see why they wouldn't.
Right.
As long as they stay looking strong, even in defeat, I could see them going over and taking the titles in the near future.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, I definitely see. I think you're right with them putting them up against the Raiders. I think this is to make Omos look strong. He's gonna do something, some type of like feat of strength against the Raiders. So, and I think they want to make him look like overpowered. And what better way to do that with two guys that are just like powerful? It's a powerful tag team. These are power guys. So I think it's a good, good booking, as you would say, for Styles. I mean, Styles is Styles. He's gonna look good no matter what. But I think that this match is more specifically geared to make Omos look good and build him up, because eventually, I'm not saying anytime soon, eventually down the line, I do see a almost AJ Styles turn feud kind of thing going, which I think would be amazing.
I agree. I definitely agree.
Not anytime soon though.
Definitely agree.
I want them to have a good tag team run for a while. I'd actually like to see them in some type of ladder match. So
Yeah. Well, they're really set it up to be like the Shawn Michaels Diesel.
Yeah.
New era.
I could see that.
I think they're gonna keep running with it for a while. That's why I don't think they're gonna have him drop it now. I think they might in the relatively near future because they can always have them chase it again.
Yeah.
But I don't think they're gonna drop it
now.
Right.
Let me tell you the thing that really caught my attention this week on Raw. A really big storyline progression for Hell in a Cell, which was Baszler and Bliss.
Yes.
That both, anyone who knows me knows that I've really been liking the Bliss storyline of her being kind of, I've been calling it Wyatt out. I don't know. But Bliss has been doing a pretty good job carrying her part in that role as this kind of new female Bray Wyatt type like character and her own twist on it. But this last Raw, dude, it was just perfect because we got to see that feud advance more when Baszler tried to go in and destroy Lily the Doll again, and Bliss was just not having it and playing a bunch of mind games leading all the way to the back to the locker rooms and stuff, which was a really good little storyline to follow right there. Obviously, you had the pyro going off on the main ramp. And then you had, of course, when she got backstage, she started seeing stuff. Lights were flickering, and then in her locker room, you actually saw the doll in the background. But then when she turned around, the doll wasn't there. Like, it's stuff like that I really enjoy, really. So it was really, I'm really looking forward to this fight. I'm really looking forward to this feud. Baszler, as we know, she can hold herself in a match. She's a really good competitor, and Alexa Bliss can keep a story going and really push more towards that as well and add to the table. So
yeah, I think that's still shaping up to be a good program. They both can go, so that's gonna be. Are they gonna if Bray is at a point where he's gonna come back? I haven't heard one way or the other. I haven't heard any rumblings about it at all. But are they gonna keep putting little things of the Fiend? Are they going to start putting little things of the Fiend in if he's even like starting to gear toward coming back? Like, that's what I'm going to be curious to see what they do with it.
Right.
I just don't. I mean, they could go any kind of story with that because I know Bray and her, they didn't have a feud, but it's kind of like the turn on Bray kind of thing.
Yeah.
I just don't know, like, unless they're gonna go like all out, like let them fight each other. I don't know where that storyline would go. It'd be a cool storyline just because they're both kind of like of the supernatural realm and they do, eerie things. But I don't know where that would go unless it was like Alexa got someone to kind of back her up, or Bray got his a different version, so someone like a follower to fight Alexa Bliss.
I think I have a feeling that's because there was no blow off. It just he went out for his mental health reasons. I hope he's doing good on that end. But there was no blow off to that no resolution.
Right.
So it just left a big question mark and left the Fiend without, what else is the Fiend gonna do when he comes back?
Right.
Like that, they're gonna have to resolve that somehow.
So here's my prediction. SummerSlam is quickly approaching us. August, it's coming faster than we all know it.
Yep.
What I'm thinking is going to happen is maybe something happens with Alexa Bliss at Hell in a Cell where the Fiend plays his mind games. We may see him. We may not see him. We may hear laughs. You know how he usually does his laughs and stuff. We may hear that. We may see an appearance from him real quick and then leave. I think what's going to happen is, and a lot of people thought Bliss was going to be this character, but I think finally, in order to stop Alexa Bliss once for all, or push her over even higher and make her kind of like the ultimate supernatural character. Right now, we're gonna get introduced to someone who is going to be playing the role of Sister Abigail.
Mm.
And
We've been waiting for that. We've been waiting for that.
We've been waiting for that since the NXT days of when it was first mentioned. It's going to be someone either we don't know, maybe we do know. It'd be better if it was someone who wasn't, as not known. That way they can keep that going. But we're going to see an incarnation of Sister Abigail where Alexa Bliss is either going to be freaked out by it or it's going to make her stronger. But I think we'll see a match, some sort of match, whether it's like a Firefly Funhouse match or a playground match or whatever it may be, that we'll see Alexa Bliss take on Sister Abigail and Bray Wyatt in the background playing mind games as well for SummerSlam.
Yeah, I could see that.
I mean, that's what I'm looking at right now, because I don't see. It's rare that WWE makes a girl fight a guy,
right?
And the last time we saw that was Baszler versus what's his name? He was hanging out with Baszler and Nia Jax for the longest.
Yeah, Nia Jax. I forgot his name.
But that was the last kind of fight we saw between the two. So we'll see what happens. I mean, that storyline has been one of my favorites for a while now, and it's been going on for a few years now. So we'll see what happens with that. But I think the biggest takeaway from this episode was the contract signing, honestly.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Lashley and McIntyre making official inside Hell in a Cell, thankfully.
I mean, we all kind of like.
We kind of knew it was going to happen.
Yeah, we knew it was going to happen, but officially now it's
signed contract and everything. I would say the biggest badass thing that happened was when he pulled out the sword and chopped the table in half. I mean, I'm a big fan of that sword right there. So that's
I got my sword right over there.
They actually call it the Claymore sword? Isn't that why he calls the move the Claymore?
Yeah, that's why he's got the Claymore.
Yeah.
I still love the story behind the actual move, but yeah, that's
why he calls it the Claymore, because of that sword. It's a famous Scottish sword.
Yep.
So that's going to be a good match, I think. I think the feud between Lashley and McIntyre has been really interesting. It's not to the point where you're getting tired of it. It's actually to the point where it's like, okay, I'm excited to see these guys get back in the ring because they're both athletically talented and they can really carry a good main event.
Also, we have I believe it was the stipulation too, right? Where it's if I can't, I know McIntyre, if he loses, like he can't ever challenge for the title again. I think that was part of.
I think as long as Lashley's champion, he can't challenge it. So yeah, that's the main stipulation. But I think that's why McIntyre was like, we're doing this in Hell in a Cell because I don't need any distractions. Like it's just me and you and locked in this cell. Like that's how it's going. So let's make a prediction now. Which one of the two is going to make the dramatic entrance where they shut the damn door behind them? And you know what I'm talking about? It's a usual dramatic Hell in a Cell entrance. I'm thinking it's McIntyre.
Like, grab it and like pull it.
Yeah.
It's usually whoever's considered like the face, especially in a case like this.
Yeah.
Where it's like he doesn't want the interference from MVP or anybody, and like that's everything is about how Lashley and MVP have been like, they're the heels, even though Lashley's like the badass heel, he's still been using MVP for a lot.
Right.
And so it usually ends up being where it's like the one with the heel with the manager, the face ends up being the second entrant.
Yeah.
It could go the other way, but I think it's gonna be.
I've always been a fan of the champion always entering the ring last. I don't know. It's just
I do too.
Like that.
I think it's really a toss up nowadays because we've kind of seen it both ways. Where you have when someone is a heel and as effective a heel as like Bobby Lashley and MVP are,
right?
Having that emphasis of you're locked in here. It's kind of like, I'm not trapped here in here with you. You're trapped in here with me, kind of.
Yeah.
Shtick. So it could. I tend to agree, but I do think it could be because it's been such an ongoing feud that it could be. They could go that way to just push that point home that
right.
He's trapped in there. Whether that stays the case or not, as we've seen with Hell in a Cells plenty of times.
Now, do we want to make a bet that anyone's going to be getting thrown from the cell, off top of the cell, off the side of the cell, like they usually been doing?
Not in that one. I don't think anybody. I mean, the cell's always going to get used at least a little. I just don't.
I think. Okay, so I mean, I'm kind of taking a way out here, but I think not from the top. I think someone will get from the side, like from the side of the cell onto like the announce table,
I can see that.
or going through, like ripping through the cell, like maybe Bobby Lashley spearing McIntyre through the cell.
Actually, that's a good point. The spear through the cell is
it's a famous move right there.
I would actually say pretty likely.
Yeah,
to show how powerful he is.
Yeah, and that also might be a way to, if they, since they'll do the whole locking MVP out, that might also be how they get him in. That's the kind of the double deal there, where it makes Lashley look super powerful and his spear looks super powerful, but it also does them the job of providing an entry into the cell without going the long way around it.
Yeah. So let's do a little recap as far as matches we have for set up on Raw at least. Let's see, Viking Raiders versus what happened?
He disappeared.
My camera just, that's weird. All right, I'm gonna keep talking, and then after this we'll keep. Viking Raiders versus Omos and AJ Styles. Who's coming out Hell in a Cell with that one?
I think Omos and AJ.
AJ and Omos. All right. We're already getting predictions away here. Here we go. What about Bliss versus Baszler?
I think Baszler comes out of that one. I feel like Bliss is gonna be creepy and everything, but it might backfire on her, and Baszler's gonna take the W with that one.
Okay.
A second.
All right. And obviously our final one, Lashley versus McIntyre inside Hell in a Cell for the WWE Championship.
I think Lashley takes that one. I think as I alluded to earlier, with him sparing him through the cell, and how Rampage there had mentioned that being a way in for the Hurt Business to come in and put the Hurt down, and it makes Lashley look strong. They're gonna make McIntyre look strong, and maybe they carry this feud on till to SummerSlam.
I think that's what is gonna happen. I think it could go the other way too, but I think they're gonna wait till SummerSlam to have McIntyre take his win back.
I think that would be smart, just because of where SummerSlam is going to be and the pop you would get from that crowd. I think that's smart.
I think they're going to do a lot to save big moments as far as wins and losses, and like those pay-per-view moments. I think they're going to for a lot of them until SummerSlam, when they have a live crowd.
Right. I agree. And by the way, the picture you see on my screen is the face I make every morning I wake up for work. So, yeah, it should be a good event. Let's move on to NXT, because there are two big things that happen in NXT this week. Obviously, the regular show NXT on Tuesday nights on USA, and of course, NXT In Your House, bringing back an old pay-per-view. They've been tending to do that a lot with past pay-per-views, bringing them back. So In Your House debuted, I think, about a year or two ago on NXT. And War Games is another one that they brought back. That was a WCW one, and they brought that over to NXT as well, which I think is brilliant. Usually around November is when it comes. Kick us off with some NXT, man. I mean, I know the biggest thing that happened on NXT was the reveal of the return of the $1 Million Championship, man, which got me stoked. So what do you guys think about that?
I like it. I like what they're doing with it. The reveal was good. I haven't watched much NXT for a while. I get like little bits on like YouTube and stuff. But that being said, I hadn't heard anything about that. I hadn't heard of the feud. I had heard that LA Knight had debuted, and while I know who he was, I hadn't seen much of him I wasn't watching Impact. That was after I didn't really have access to Impact except through YouTube. That whole thing. I mean, I was a huge fan of the $1 Million Man growing up. So
Right.
seeing him back, having him, re-debut that, and having it not just be kind of like when he brought it back for his son, it was, I don't know, it just didn't feel like it mattered so much. It was just kind of prop. It didn't feel like a belt.
It was just kind of like a passing down to like, oh, my son's, it's my son, so I'm just gonna give it to him.
Yeah, and originally, I mean, it still was kind of a prop because it didn't really matter. It wasn't like the FTW title that Taz brought out, which he also brought back.
Right.
Where it was, okay, the world champion's injured and not defending his title for a year, so this is, basically his way to make, and he made it actually matter.
Right.
The $1 Million title was never supposed to be like that. It's supposed to be a prop, basically. Very expensive prop, but a prop.
It was just basically like, it was part of his gimmick of how money can buy anything, so he bought his own title.
Yeah.
Right.
And then originally they made it matter.
Yeah.
The second time it didn't have that. So like having it have that again is nice. I like it.
So will that be a full-time thing now on NXT where we'll have people swapping for the title and whatnot for that now?
I think it's gonna I think LA Knight's gonna end up being kind of like the $1 Million Man.
Right.
Like that was kind of the vibe I got from last week's episode.
Right.
And from everything that happened on In Your House.
Right.
So I mean, I could see it. I don't think it's going to be a competitive title. I don't think it's going to be like, the US title on the main roster or anything like that. But I think it's definitely going to have more legs than it did when Ted DiBiase Jr. was holding it.
Right. Yeah, I think it's going to have a lot more significance now that we're seeing it come into fruition, especially with the two people that are feuding for it. Obviously, you're trying to declare who's the richer one out of the two. So they're really trying to bring that style of the $1 Million Man back into WWE again.
Well, I think the title will have value if they make it to have value. Obviously, I don't think it's going to be like an IC title or even like a world title or anything like that. But I think if you allow it to be exchanged between wrestlers and it be like an actual like, oh, you guys are going to fight for this title, and then you lose it and he gets it and the title kind of switches hands and there's value put on the title, then I think the title could be worth something. But yeah, as of right now, I think it's just like it is a prop, like you guys are saying. But I think with time and right booking, I think the title could have a value of maybe like a US title or even more than like a 24/7 title.
Right.
So but I just think it's all about how they use the title and how they book it. The wrestlers that they use. If they take it serious, then people will see it as a serious title. If they take it, oh, it's just a prop, then people are not going to respect the titles. It's pretty much, I mean, it's how you book the title.
Yeah. Well, knowing how Triple H runs NXT,
right,
and the respect and knowledge he has for the history of the business, and just watching how they've set this up in last week's show, In Your House, the little bit I saw of this week's show, it definitely seems like he understands what the title was originally in its original form.
Right.
And it really feels like he's trying to use that same way of using it, where it's a prop, but it's more than just a prop. It adds to the whatever story they're trying to tell, instead of just being just there for the sake of saying, oh, this guy's the $1 Million champion.
Yeah.
I mean, even when they put it on the ringmaster, Stone Cold before he was Stone Cold,
right,
it didn't really have a purpose. It didn't really, I mean, they were trying to make him like Ted DiBiase's pet project kind of thing.
Right.
but it didn't. It just was kind of empty. And then it happened again when they tried to do it with Ted Jr. and it was just, it was just a prop. It didn't add to the story. Now they're doing it, adding to the story, and like the story they're telling with them is so good. With Cameron Grimes like idolizing Ted DiBiase and trying to chase for his approval, but genuinely, like, you feel like he actually cares.
Right. Yeah.
So I like it.
NXT, I think over the last 5 years, what it's trying to do and what it is currently doing is it's not no longer developmental, where it's trying to be its own show. It's trying to really just fit in with Raw and SmackDown. It's trying to be at that level of Raw and SmackDown, which I think personally it is. It's got great booking, great storytelling. They use all their wrestlers really good. It gets better every week.
Well, they've been doing a smart thing by keeping it. I mean, it's still developmental. It's still giving. I mean, that's why they have. I mean, they're the only ones that have what are effectively not squash matches, but like jobber matches. They have matches with people who are names like within the NXT programming,
right?
That are relatively big names for the programming, and then the up and comers who haven't had much TV time or have only been there for a short period of time. And that's smart because that gives those new hands experience without damaging what they could end up being.
Right.
And it also gives the established people something to do. It gets more people on the card.
Yeah.
And it gives them the shine without it taking away from somebody else who also you want to give shine, who's established. That's a problem you see with Raw and SmackDown. I mean, look at people like Ricochet, and I mean, any number of people even in the last few years, even though they've gotten better at not doing it. And I mean, everybody has to take an L at some point.
Right.
But when you have only named like major stars, you don't get things as much like 1-2-3 Kid, like where it was such a big shock that he beat Razor Ramon because he was a nobody.
Yeah.
Right.
The last person, and it's so weird to think about the fact that really is the last main event or like main roster situation like that, was James Ellsworth.
Yeah.
And that was just a fluke because he was so ridiculously funny looking in how he sold everything and had that great line. I forget exactly what it was now, but they had a great line where it was just like
Vince McMahon.
Yeah. Like there's no one else that's had that, that jobber role without being a like for Braun Strowman or somebody where it's just a squat.
For me too, it's like NXT, I think, rules as far as titles go. They have, I think, the most titles on any show. I mean, you got the WWE Championship and the Intercontinental Championship, the United States Championship and the Raw Tag Team Championships and the SmackDown or the Raw Women's Championship on Raw, and I believe even the tag team champs. Who's the tag team champs right now? Natalia and
they're
Italian. Raw. So they got those. SmackDown only has the Universal Champion, the Intercontinental Champion, the SmackDown Tag Team Champions, and the Women's SmackDown Championship. Whereas NXT, you got the NXT Championship, the North American Championship, the Tag Team Championship, the freaking Cruiserweight Championship.
Yeah.
You have now you have the $1 Million Championship. Not to mention NXT UK, the NXT UK Championship, the UK Tag Titles, UK Women's Championships, So I think that they do a good job each week of booking. They keep essentially the main people they need to push stories up every week, but every week you'll see different people come on and challenge so and so to push so and so. So it's really good, and I have to go ahead.
It's a vibe, like it's that very visceral, like if it's the closest thing to capturing the Attitude Era that WWE is gonna probably ever do, or anytime soon.
Yeah.
Right. Right. And I would say the biggest takeaway from this week's though was the return of what's her name?
Kyo
Shirai, yeah. She came back. Poppy, which is weird. She was on the show. I remember watching like I don't know. I think I've been so obsessed like early on in her career watching conspiracy theories about how she was like being forced against her will to do those videos.
Oh yeah, no,
like it's just weird.
I loved her whole like she was like her character was like she was a kind of robotic and like there was just like they really pushed that uncanny valley with her.
Right.
I love that. It's a shame that some of the background of all of that is actually really kind of sad.
Right.
Because her former producer is kind of a terrible human being from what I read up. But I've always loved Poppy. I didn't know that she changed her sound so much. Like I hadn't seen her previous appearance on NXT.
Right.
Like last year, 2 years ago or whatever it was. I didn't know she was doing more like metal stuff.
Yeah, she really like, that kind of threw me off guard too. I was like, wait, what?
Yeah, I was like, why is Poppy? And then I found out I heard a little bit of it, but I like read up that she was like doing more like metal sounding, metal inspired music. I was like, oh, okay, that makes more sense now. And like, because I read that it was like the reason she was on this time was because they're using her for the theme or something.
For In Your House or for NXT?
I think it was for NXT going forward.
Okay.
Which kind of sucks because I mean, obviously, I'm a huge fan of Slipknot, but
right.
Okay, like when I heard Poppy's doing their theme, I was like, that's a weird choice. Because I'm so used to her. Like, I mean, it was still good music. I still liked her old music, but it was very different. I was like, it's not really fitting for a wrestling show.
Yeah, but I mean, Shirai coming back, dude, that was kind of a shocker. You know what I mean? Like, I did not see that coming at all. And she's been out for some time, and now she's coming back, and it's like she didn't lose her touch.
Poppy's involved in that was really good, actually. Because I made sure to watch that segment, and Poppy's involvement in that didn't interrupt the flow or anything. No. Like she sold her involvement and it didn't feel awkward or anything.
Right.
So I was okay.
Should be fun to see where that goes.
It made a big moment feel bigger.
Yeah, because they really are trying to push a lot of. That was Triple H's thing, and he even said in an interview on the Wikipedia Fact or Fiction that he really wants to start pushing like more metal into wrestling, whether it be up and coming artists or artists that we already know. Obviously, we know a lot of the times he does promos for like big WrestleMania matches. You hear a lot of the time it's Metallica or something. So
yeah,
we know he's a metal fan. I mean, his fucking theme song is written by Motorhead. So
yep.
Yeah, that's interesting. But I think the biggest takeaway, obviously, from this week's NXT was the setup for the Fatal 5-Way at In Your House, which was a good way to finish off the night with NXT with all of them hitting finishers, fighting each other, and just getting the excitement going for that match.
Yeah.
So, good episode. Another solid one. I can't wait. Because I did watch a little bit of NXT yesterday, so I'm like I was making sure I was thinking about the right things because there's a lot I want to talk about it. Like some major stuff popped down with NXT this past week where I was just kind of in shock to see things going back to normal. So that'll be definitely something we talk about next week. But
I had to go back and like look at the day. I'm like,
that's why if you saw me looking down on my phone, I was looking at the matches. Okay, what happened? Which ones were last week? Because I was trying to get confused. I wasn't ignoring anybody or wasn't scrolling. I was like looking for the matches. Like, okay, what?
That's I was just trying to process. I was like thinking about, okay, what happened last week?
Yeah, because we're filming this on a Wednesday, and Raw and NXT already happened for next week's episode, so got to make sure we're kind of keeping on the same control. But
get everything lined up right.
Bottom line is NXT is good and possibly the better show of the 3.
You want to go down the list real quick since we're on the top of NXT of In Your House, since we can get that out of the way and go to SmackDown and AEW?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's go down the list of In Your House real quick to see who came out victorious and what storylines progressed and what the future of NXT is looking like from going forward.
I can't remember the guy's name now. I'm trying to think because I didn't get to watch all of In Your House. I watched most of it. Todd Pettingale, I think his name
Todd
was.
Pettingill, yeah.
Yes, I love the stuff that they did with him. Like, where they're
Yes.
like, he's got like the VHS and he's trying to like, all right, guys, like we're gonna play this, and they're like, no, we do it like digital now. Like that stuff to me, I was just like kind of like throwback to like when I used to like watch. It was like Coliseum home video.
Coliseum video, yeah.
I was just like, oh man, that stuff reminds
Oh,
me.
that was so good.
When I used to go to the video store and rant like SummerSlam or something.
Yeah.
Yep.
Dude. What's the card looking like real quick for like the smaller things, Rampage?
Let me bring it up because I did watch it, but I need to
I'll throw up.
have a refresher of the actual list, the actual card.
I can. I'm gonna look it up real quick too on mine, and we'll go back and forth with it.
It started with the 6-man winner take all match, Legado de Fantasma
Versus MSK and Bronson Reed.
I had not seen a whole lot of Bronson Reed before this.
Yeah,
I'd seen MSK a little bit, and I didn't know that Zema Ion is in NXT. He's one of the Legado de Fantasma.
right.
Like, I had no idea. Like, I heard the name. I was like, that guy looks familiar. I had to look it up. I was like, oh, shit, that's DJ Z. Zema Ion, whatever. Whatever it's called.
Yeah.
Like that. Like, he wrestles. I mean, you still see little bits of his old style, but he wrestles very differently. So it was very, like, hard to decipher off the top who he was and why he looked familiar. But, man, Bronson Reed is ridiculous.
Yeah. I mean, he looks fucking huge, dude. And
like, and for being as big as he is to move like he does, I was like, okay, this guy's got some real potential.
That's one thing that stood out with him is I was just surprised how agile he is for being that size. I was just like, well, this guy can move.
Yeah. And for still being as strong, it's like he's got all three things.
Yeah.
I think the only thing that will hamper him in WWE is that he doesn't have Vince's look.
right.
He's a big dude, but he doesn't have that
He doesn't have what Vince wants usually.
Yeah, it's kind of the same problem that Keith Lee ran into.
Right. Which I hope they bring him back to NXT, man, because he was so much better there.
I know that there's talks about why he's been out, and he's been saying he'll explain in time or something. Like he said, give him some more time or something, because apparently it's medical related. So hopefully he's even able to still wrestle. Hopefully it's not something major, but they've been keeping it real quiet.
Yeah.
So
Bronson Reed, man. I mean, winners take all. That's usually you don't see that at match very often too, where the North American Championship and the NXT Tag Team Champions are put on the line against another team.
It's a very lucha style stipulation,
right? And then of course the team they faced they have lucha background. So
yeah.
What about what's her name? Is her name Zia Lee? Is that her name? Zia Lee and Mercedes Martinez. It looks like Zia Lee picked up the win.
Good. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a good fight.
Yeah, that was one I got to watch, and that was actually really good. I haven't watched too much of these ladies, but I was very impressed with their wrestling ability.
Mm-hmm.
Zia Lee just kind of stood out as far as her athleticism. Again, I haven't watched too much of them, but just Zia, just the way she moved around, how agile she was, that was the one thing that kind of stood out to me in this match.
Right. I mean, you got to imagine though too, Triple H is probably getting a lot of his talent from the indies as well.
Oh yeah.
And it's been and you've seen it too with a lot of like Adam Cole coming in and AJ Styles and whatnot. So you're seeing a lot of the indie people come up, and these indie people and we'll talk a little bit about Amped, but they try to give it their all because they know this is what they want to do full time, and they really will put on a 5-star match if it means that it gives them opportunities in the future. So I could see one of these two actually being probably NXT Women's Championship in the near future. Honestly,
Oh, definitely.
it's hands down.
If Xia Li, whatever you pronounce her name, if she takes it, it's going to be very different than if Mercedes takes it.
Right.
Because I like both of their styles, but they're so different in terms of their aesthetic.
Right.
Because you have the I forget what their the name of the faction is, but the Chinese faction, it's almost Ministry-esque that Xia Li is part of.
Okay.
That has a lot of potential to be a pretty strong factor in NXT for a while.
Right.
Because it's very, I mean, like the whole like mystical look that like that whole like dark like ghost like is like the Grudge look that I forget what her name is, but the leader of their group, like I feel like that they could very easily, if either her or Xia takes it, being like the puppet master and like having her underlings do everything, which could be interesting. And then you also though have Mercedes, what's her name? Mercedes Martinez, who's very like kind of like Baszler, like just like badass, hard hitting, athletic chick who could hold the title and look legitimate holding the title for a long time.
I agree. And like I said, I can see in the future one of these two ladies putting that 100%. Belt around their waist and carrying it for a little bit for a good storyline. $1 million championship ladder match, man. LA Knight versus Cameron Grimes, man. Was Ted DiBiase ringside for this?
Yes.
He was, okay.
And that was a hell of a match.
I mean, just look at the match overall, though. You have two really good, talented wrestlers who can carry a match and make it a 5-star easily. On top of that, you have the $1 million belt on the line, which hasn't been in the picture for some time now, so that was a big excitement. On top of that, it's a ladder match, and ladder matches never can go wrong.
Well, especially in NXT.
Like how they showed on NXT, the week before, was the ladder gold?
They had the gold ladder.
Okay.
And I really liked what they did telling the story of the $1 million championship, making it be important.
Right.
Because at the top of the ramp, they had the gold ladder.
Right.
And, you had Ted DiBiase talking about climbing the ladder to success and taught, all that stuff that they had been going through. And, you have the Beverly Hillbilly type gimmick of Cameron Grimes, who's like really fighting and scrapping for it. And LA Knight, who thinks he just deserves it. And they start with just the normal ladders. They have the like ladders around ringside and whatnot. Right. And, they used, it was like any ladder match in recent years that there has been. They used every ladder. There was no time where the ladders were just there for being weapons, just there for the sake of it.
Yeah.
It was very like well planned out. Everything was well executed. But the fact that they didn't use the golden ladder, they didn't treat it like just another ladder.
Right.
Like they brought, I think it was Cameron Grimes was the one who went and grabbed it, and he made a big deal about going to get that ladder. I think that's the ladder that was the ladder that they used for the finish.
Right.
It was great. Like all those parts actually matter.
Yeah. I mean, they're really bringing back relevance to that title, giving it this match and crowning the first pretty much ever in NXT $1 million champion. So this match actually, when you think about it, was a big deal because this is the first time ever you're seeing this title in NXT, and the first time ever someone's being crowned that champion in NXT. So
Yeah.
Again, I caught little clips of this match. I like how well. First, I like how DiBiase was out there. Kind of. I feel like it was one of those things like impress me kind of thing where that's my title, impress me, and that I feel like that gives the title some value. I think it was. I think you're right. I think they did use the golden ladder at the finish. Even like storytelling as far as that, I like that. Like, okay, we're not gonna treat this ladder, this special ladder, this golden ladder, as just another ladder. I like that storytelling. And I'm a huge fan of uh LA Knight, right? I keep want to
Yeah.
call him it's Eli Drake, right? But yeah, I want to keep calling him Eli Drake, but LA Knight, I'm a huge fan of him, been watching him for a while. The guy can go. So I think like with this kind of storyline, I think it's pretty cool. Like you're saying, it's that almost I deserve this, and over here is I'm gonna work for this kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it's a good storyline to follow. I like how they're doing it. This is something I want to see more of.
definitely.
Yes.
So what I noticed NXT pay-per-views, it's like they give you less matches, but the matches will be longer and actually 5-star matches most of the time. Compared to like a pay-per-view where they kind of load the card with all these people and then sometimes it's hit or miss with the matches.
Yeah.
So the next match we got up here is the NXT Women's Championship match, which was Raquel Gonzalez versus Ember Moon. I'm a big fan of Ember Moon. Been also a big fan lately of Raquel Gonzalez. She retained the title via pinfall. How was this match?
I had not heard of Raquel Gonzalez before this because, like I said, I haven't been keeping a close eye on NXT. So there's
Right.
certain people that, like you said, sometimes there's, certain people that are on, and sometimes there aren't.
Yeah.
So she hasn't been on when I've watched her. She's kind of just been a match. There hasn't been something that has been more to the forefront with her. So like, it was funny because I was watching with my girlfriend, and like she commented on like how big she was. I was like, I gotta look up how tall she is.
Yeah.
And I was like, she's 6 foot.
Damn.
Like, that's taller than me. Like I was like, damn, like not by a lot, but like.
I mean, when both of you stand next to me, you guys are like on my fucking shoulders. Like,
yeah, that's true.
Well, that's like when you consider that Ember Moon is 5'2", that's why she looks so huge, is because
right.
Ember Moon is like relatively short.
Yeah.
And she's big for a female.
Yeah.
But I like her. I like her style. Like we talked about last time. I like Ember Moon, but I really liked the style that Raquel uses. That like, again, it's that kind of almost strong style, but not like in the sense of like strikes, but just very snug and hard. Like everything has like so much impact. They make her out to very much be like almost like I know that they've had a back and forth on Twitter the last like few days, but she's very much like a female Braun Strowman.
Yeah. No, I've been following her since I saw her last year at War Games. That's when I first was kind of introduced to her. And that was a great War Games match. I think they actually came over with her team. And from there, she's just been kind of working her ass off until the weekend of WrestleMania when they did the NXT TakeOver. She finally won the title. And that's when that next week, when, the same weekend that Rhea Ripley and Bianca Belair won their titles for Raw and SmackDown, they all came on NXT and they all kind of celebrated together because they all came up together. So I've been really following her since then, since that War Games match, because as good as she is as a bad guy, she fucking kicks ass in the ring, dude.
Yeah.
So
I think this match was I'm trying to think how I'm not trying to over dramatize it or anything, but I think this was just like a good direction that NXT is going with, specifically their lady wrestlers. I mean, Amber Moon, we've been watching her for a while. She's been up on the main roster, and she's come down to NXT. She can go. Raquel, I haven't seen too much of her, but just from watching the match, she does, and I like how it's two different styles. She is very, tight and clean when it comes to her striking, and Amber Moon, one thing that just stuck out to me is I think she threw a super kick in this fight, and just the way she lands it, the way she kind of contorts her body, she makes it look very dramatic. And obviously in pro wrestling you want that to kind of, you need to dramatize things. So
Yeah.
just watching this match, I was like, okay, and I mean, NXT is in a great place when it comes to women's wrestling, and I think that just is going to carry over, and it has carried over, as we see with Anthony's favorite women's wrestler, was it Rhea Ripley, or Rhea Ripley, however you want to pronounce it. um she's come from NXT, and she's up there with the best in WWE. So I think NXT and their women's wrestling and their women's division specifically has really stepped up from, I would say, even 5 years ago.
Right.
Oh yeah,
Definitely. Our final main event for the night, the NXT Championship Fatal 5-Way match.
Before we get to the 5-Way, I was really surprised that Shotzi Blackheart made an appearance.
Was she with Ember?
Yeah, well, she because they're tag team partners.
Yeah.
She did a run into to get Dakota Kai out of the
picture. Yeah,
which was I like Dakota Kai, but it was I didn't realize just how good she is at her facial selling.
Right.
Like the expression as soon as she realized that Shotzi was there. I think Shotzi was supposed to actually either wasn't supposed to grab her or was, but either way, the look of surprise and that shit was hilarious.
Yeah, that's always the best sells, right? It's awesome.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Fatal 5-Way match, man. I mean, we don't get to see a lot of these either, especially for a championship. Karrion Kross, Adam Cole, Pete Dunne, Johnny Gargano, and Kyle O'Reilly. Karrion Kross, man, retained, and he wanted this match. He goes, give me all of them. I don't care. I'll take them all on, which is a fucking good champion, in my opinion, if he's willing to take a challenge like that.
Like we discussed previously, I hadn't seen much of him.
Right.
But he definitely won me over as a fan.
Well, from what I can see, he submitted O'Reilly after he passed out, right?
Yep.
How did the match go, though? Did we get any chairs in? Did we get any tables? Was it just a regular setup fight?
It was pretty clean.
Yeah.
Okay.
There wasn't a whole lot of shenanigans. I mean, there was in terms of
outside the ring. Yeah, outside the ring stuff. You're typical...
throwing into barriers and stuff, and the tables, the announcer tables.
Yeah, somebody got slammed. The announcer table, if I remember correctly, didn't break, but somebody got
slammed into it.
Onto it.
They're really reinforcing those good now because they're like, we gotta fucking use this. No.
Well, they've been I like when they do that when it's going to add to the match, and that I think 2 people actually got slammed on it, if I remember correctly.
Wow.
Different points. I think Cross got put not through it, but
on it,
on it and over it. And it was somebody else did too, but it was when they hit and you hear that crunch and everything goes boom. I mean, but it doesn't break. It just seems so much more gnarly.
I mean, just let's take a look at the fucking competitors in this match, right? Karrion Kross, dude, who's been fucking killing it since his debut on NXT. Fucking Adam Cole, dude. Adam Cole has been killing it since the Indies. He's made a name of himself in the Indies and fucking carried that name onto NXT and says he will never leave NXT because that's his fucking home.
Cole,
baby. Pete Dunne, who has, since I've seen him start wrestling from NXT UK till here, has made a name for himself too. And
I love Dunne.
Can we talk about how fucking good of a shape he looks now compared to when I fucking saw him live at War Games back in fucking 2018, dude? That guy's ripped now.
Yeah.
Johnny Gargano, dude, Mr. NXT himself. You know, fucking hell of a competitor. And Kyle O'Reilly, dude.
With Gargano, I didn't realize that the whole group of the Way. I didn't even know that was a group.
Yeah,
but they were all dressed as the Click.
That's great.
Yeah, that was awesome.
I didn't pick up on it except for I did. Obviously, I mean, anybody who's been a fan for longer than the current era,
yeah,
would recognize his getup. That I was like, oh my god, it's Shawn Michaels. That's so fucking cool.
Right. I mean, this match was obviously built for success. Like, they knew this one was going to take over the fans, and I think this was probably the match. This had to be easily the match of the night right here.
Oh yeah,
easily,
100%, 110%.
This match was great, and the thing that I don't know, it just bums me out a little bit is that this could have been. The match was great. No downplay on the match at all. But I like this match could have been at a Mania. Like this match is a Mania match, and I get a little bit down because of that. But overall, like, I mean, all the guys you mentioned, like I got a autographed picture right over there of me and Killer Cross. I've been watching this guy for a long time, and this dude's a beast. Like he's a monster in the ring, and he's all power, and he's just vicious, and I love his style. Like, he's just gonna punch like his fist through your face, and I like that. And you know, like you said, all the guys, you know, Kyle O'Reilly, Dunn, but Gargano, you know, but I love the way O'Reilly strikes. Like, I've always been a fan of his submissions, the way he strikes. So he moves in the ring like a wrestler, but like a martial artist. And I love that, like how he's kind of mixed those two. We've seen other people try it. I think who am I thinking of? I can't think of her name right now, but she's a current member on the roster. I think Shayna Baszler. Shayna Baszler has a good mixture of like strikes and you know, you could tell she is a real fighter, but she's kind of incorporated, you know, wrestling. And I think Kyle O'Reilly has done that too, just in his own way. You know, like I said, I'm a huge fan of this dude. I love the way he mixes one art form with the other art form, and it to me, when he fights, it looks just different. He stands out to me a little more. But my favorite wrestler out of all these guys is Adam Cole. The dude, he has a weird style to me. When he strikes, they're good strikes, but I don't know, it just looks weird to me. But he's probably my favorite wrestler right now in WWE.
Hands down.
I do love that. I hadn't seen much of Kyle O'Reilly until he got to NXT. I saw a little bit here, but watching him in this match, especially, like, I totally see what you're talking about. It's very him. I mean, almost everybody in this match, specifically Adam Cole, I think, is the only one that's kind of on the outside, who's just more traditional American style, like indie style wrestling.
Yeah,
right.
Everyone else is very, it's almost like American strong style. Like, I know that some, like Kyle O'Reilly, picked that up from their travels, you know, from Japan and stuff. But it translates very well, especially since they've all gotten to NXT and been trained in the WWE way of wrestling, the mainstream American way of slowing it down a little bit and pumping it up when you need to and pulling back when you need to.
Yeah,
it translated so well, especially like for anyone who's like a serious wrestling fan. Like, that match was like one of the best in years.
Yeah, I mean,
especially when you consider there weren't any gimmicks other than the fact that it was a 5-way.
Yeah.
So even though there was no DQs, they didn't need to use like chairs left and right, tables left and right. Like, they chose the hardcore parts very smartly.
Right.
Enhanced the flow of the match. And it was, again, for like, I think for people who are a little more casual, just because it went so long, because there were 5 guys, it might feel like it dragged a little bit. I know my girlfriend kind of was like, this is going on a little long. I'm like, but it's still good.
Yeah.
Like she still enjoyed it.
Yeah.
But it was for people who aren't like super deep into it. Yeah, it might have felt like that. But it was like everything. There was no time where it felt like it was a rest time.
Right.
Like 2 guys doing whatever, and then they peel off, it'd be a double down or something, and then two the other guys would come in, and then Karrion Kross would come in and wipe them out, and then somebody else would come. It was constantly something happening,
and they were giving everybody their respective spotlights.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
And there was no one outshone the others. There was no like noticeable downtime.
Right.
And man, the finish was so good.
Yeah.
Like,
that submission, man. I mean,
that was like talking about how he looks legit. Kyle O'Reilly's like that. Like, was it a knee bar? I think he had someone in.
Yeah.
Like that thing looked gnarly. Like that looked. I was like, oh shit. Like, okay, they're actually good. Like it looked like a finisher. Like,
yeah.
Especially if you know what like real, like MMA looks like. It looked like you can't get out of that. Like he had it locked in solid, and then Kross to come in and just boom.
Yeah, just choke him out.
And like the look, like when they did that shot of Kyle O'Reilly's face, like my girlfriend was like, ugh. I was like, oh shit, that looks hardly like it was that, like it gave that legitimacy that makes, no matter what else happened, that alone made that match feel legitimate.
Yeah, man. I mean, NXT always putting on good shows, but I'm excited to see what they do next, storyline-wise, leading up to the next takeover, and I cannot wait to see what goes down, man. Let's swap over to the blue brand. Aha, you like that, don't you? By the way, that last one was supposed to be yellow. It looked like red on the screen, but it was yellow, I can promise you that. We're swapping over to the blue brand right here. Friday Night SmackDown, after a great NXT, SmackDown has to follow that up every week. And I say the biggest thing that happened this week was Reigns taking out the Mysterios again, and Rey Mysterio challenging Reigns or inside Hell in a Cell. I don't know if it was for the title, but he wants to fight him at Hell in a Cell.
Yeah.
Because he did mess up his son, and he doesn't, I think any dad would do that, though. You know what I mean? Like, story or no story, like, any dad's gonna go step up for their son. But I think that's a good feud going on right now between the Mysterios and the Usos and Reigns. So, it's like a family versus family rivalry, So
yeah.
I do enjoy that right now, and it was cool to see, Rey Mysterio come out and call him out. And, we had a big old feud with I believe it was Jay, who just was stuck in the middle of Jimmy and Reigns arguing, and then just finally walking off.
Yeah.
And Reigns trying to explain to Jimmy, like, I'm not doing this, we're family, like, that comes first. And he's trying to kind of convince them to both work with him so they can start their own trio. It looks like Reigns is going to start pretty much the family version of the Shield, you know what I mean? Like, start his own trio up again with George's family, which I think is a good push. But I mean, I'm thinking later down the line, I forgot, I think it was one of you two that said it, but later down the line we should be getting a rematch of Jay versus Reigns or Jimmy versus Reigns or something. So
yeah, we talked about that. I do still think that's going to be the case. I think it's going to be way later in the year at this point, especially because I've heard rumblings that the plan is possibly or likely for Jimmy to get fully on board. Because I've also heard that the rumbling is that for SummerSlam, because John Cena has now said that he is going to return.
Right. I had heard about that in an interview he just did recently for Fast. He was actually promoting Fast 9.
Yeah, for Fast 9.
And then the guy asked, because the guy who interviewed him was Chris Van Villette or
something like Villette.
But yeah, he had him on the show they were doing a promo for Fast 9, and he asked him if he's going to return soon, and said it's looking good. So And I mean, let's be honest. Vince always keeps that door open for Cena anytime. That's Vince's boy right there, dude. That's one of his, So anytime he wants to come back, the door's always open. They'll fit him in somehow. Owens and Big E defeated Cruz and Zayn. That was a good one. Obviously those two, those two tag teams have been feuding with one another. Owens with Zayn, Big E with Apollo Crews with the whole Intercontinental Championship and whatnot. That should be two great fights at Hell in a Cell, an Intercontinental Championship match. And Owens and Zayn, we have already discussed in deep how good of a match they can put on with them too. Obviously, they've done it in the past and they can do it again. So looking forward to that. Liv Morgan, the first week post Ruby Riott, going solo, defeats Carmella. Did my thing come off? I can't hear no more. That's awesome. First week after Ruby Riott's gone, and we do see she picks up a victory via pinfall against Carmella. So I think that's a big win for her. I don't know if they got some kind of push in the works with her, but we'll watch closely on that one.
Yep.
I think that one of the funniest things, though, was Seth Rollins appearing on Ding Dong Hello with Bayley, her little talk show. Bayley and Rollins are mocking Belair, obviously, and Rollins opens the door, and who's on the other side, man? The Swiss Superman himself, man. Cesaro is back after being injured with the arm, and he proved that he's still 100%, and he's ready to kick Rollins' ass, so I'm excited for that, too.
I love Cesaro, so I'm all about that.
Yeah, Cesaro, guy's athletic as hell. He's ripped. Guy can do anything.
He is a when you look at a wrestler, he looks like the perfect wrestler.
Yes.
And he's not even from America. Even better.
Yeah.
So that shows. Montez Ford. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, he's a more athletic version of like the old school, like turn of the century catch can, like Frank Gotch, George Hackett. Like he's legit as legit comes.
Montez Ford defeating Chad Gable via disqualification. Chad Gable and Otis have been having this ongoing feud with the Street Profits, man. They want those titles, and I think they're giving Otis the good heel push. I think when he first started, I didn't like the whole kind of him acting a little stupid and whatnot. Well, but
the heavy machinery shit worked in NXT,
right?
But when they moved it to the main roster, they gave them a decent push, but they kind of just fell by the wayside,
right?
And in the when they didn't split them up right away, but then they gave Otis the push for the Money in the Bank and the whole storyline with was it with Mandy Rose,
or
whatever,
the whole dating thing and stuff,
and like that was actually really, especially like considering how weird a situation it was when that started, because I was right at the beginning of the pandemic. It was like, what are like having to come up with new shit that people will actually care about,
right?
It's like, okay, they didn't do the typical shit where it was like they have this person trying to woo this other person, and then someone interferes and that person turns on them. They didn't do that. They just played it straight. He ended up getting the girl and getting I was like, okay, this is cool. Like, yeah, they did a little over the top, but I mean, it wasn't the worst. Like I think that even though I still don't have a problem with it, I liked it better than like Jesse and Festus back in the day. Like, like as much as great as they were separately, like as talents, they definitely were not storytelling level what they did with Otis.
Right.
But that being said, I think this is a million times better for both him and Chad Gable, and pushing them as serious heels, and they're not like slimy heels. They're just like, we're better than you, we're better athletes than you, kind of like gimmick, like,
because we all know Shorty G was such a good idea, right? I don't know, man. I mean, I really like this. I love the Street Profits. Montez Ford always cracks me up. no matter what he does in ring. They're a good team. Angelo Dawkins, man, those guys are hilarious with the party cups and just how energetic they are, man.
They're like if the New Age Outlaws were both as athletic as Billy Gunn.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I can see that.
So,
like,
I mean,
they both can wrestle.
I'm looking forward to seeing if they do a championship match over at Hell in a Cell. Maybe, or not even Hell in a Cell, but hopefully down the line, one of these two teams get back the championships because I know the Mysterios are currently holding that down. So we'll see what's up with that pretty soon. Shinsuke Nakamura, King Corbin, the feud that's been going on for a while now. Shinsuke picked up the win against King Corbin via pinfall. It looks like Corbin got the crown back, and then Nakamura stole it again. So we know that's an ongoing thing every week. So
yeah, that's another one. I don't think the full blow off is going to happen till SummerSlam.
Yeah. So, I mean, we just need another King of the Ring tournament already. So
yeah,
let's just get that going. Hopefully soon.
That's I'll go ahead and get that out of the way. I just read it today when I was looking for all the any news things that were worth noting.
Right.
And that I wanted to actually get on record. There's I saw on one of the major sites, not like some fringe site, that apparently there's a possibility that King of the Ring is going to return soon.
Yes. Nice.
So
when was the last time we had one? Like 2 or 3 years ago? Has it been already?
3 or 4.
I think. But those were over weeks, right? Like it was.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it was a big lead up to like a pay-per-view, and the pay-per-view they crowned it.
Yeah, no, I want one of those legit King of the Rings where you got to fight 4 guys in one night. That would be cool. I want one of those.
Yeah, I think it's way overdue to have something like that. I think even if it was just a Raw or something, but it was all dedicated to that, I think it would be better.
Right. No, I agree. We'll see what goes on with that, man. But I think the biggest thing to pick up on this one, the biggest storyline going on right now is Reigns and the Mysterios. We'll see what happens this final Friday before Hell in a Cell, and going into Hell in a Cell, what that's going to look like. And then we'll talk post Hell in a Cell, too, next week on the podcast. So looking forward to that. Now, let's swap it over, man. AEW.
AEW.
Let's get it going. That's orange. That's about. I always see orange, yellow. I'll go yellow for them. They're usually yellow too.
I see it.
AEW, man. A lot of big things happened on AEW this week. We had, of course, a stacked card. We had TNT Championship match with Miro and Evil Uno, the Young Bucks and Brandon Calder versus Eddie Kingston, Penta El Zero Miedo, and Pac.
Yeah.
Hangman Page and Press 10 Vance versus Brian Cage and the Powerhouse Hobbs. Christian Cage versus Angelico. Nyla Rose versus Layla Hirsch. I guess I think I pronounced that right. I don't know. Lance Archer was in action as well. Cody Rhodes made a special announcement, and Darby Allin and Sting made an announcement, and we heard from the Pinnacle from the first time after Double or Nothing. We had to see what they had to say. First match, Christian Cage versus Angelico with Matt Hardy. It seems like Matt Hardy's being that type of, the
leader,
the pro passing down the knowledge to the young guys. That's why he's going to more of a management position. But every now and then we'll lace up the boots and get in there. I'm surprised after all these years this guy's still wrestling. This guy can barely fucking walk, let alone barely turn his neck. But from what I'm seeing on this site, it got a B+, which is fairly decent match. So, and Christian Cage won. How good does Christian Cage look after all these years, too, man?
Oh yeah,
I mean he's fucking ripped.
He's probably in some of, if not the best shape that he's ever been in.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
I mean, I think a lot of it has to do also with when he started having the concussion issues that led to him
retiring.
not retiring, but basically being forced onto the sidelines.
Right.
Indefinitely not cleared.
Yeah.
Yeah.
His body had a lot of time to heal a lot of the smaller stuff.
Yeah.
And I think that went a long way for how he looks, how good he looks in the ring now at his age.
Right. Yeah, I love watching Christian fight. I've been watching Christian fight since fucking as far back as I can remember. Christian and Edge, man.
I'm actually a huge fan of I'm gonna butcher the name, but Angelico.
Yeah.
I got to see him wrestle at Lucha Underground live, and remember the first time I watched him, I was like, this dude, he's kind of like deceptively athletic, just because he's tall and kind of long. But I'm a fan of him. Obviously Christian, watching for years, so I'm a huge fan of Christian. But Angelico, I like him. I like that he's over in AEW. I think the dude is a good worker. I think with time, I think he'll be able to develop into a better worker. I don't see him as championship material, but maybe like a tag team, or one of the not lower end titles, because I want to call it title lower end, but not the main title. I could see him going
Like
for being like a contender for one of those titles. But they both put on a good match. I thought it was a good match. I think they work well together, so I liked it.
And I like
yeah,
and Jack Evans as a team.
Yeah.
So that I like it. It was a good match. Yeah.
Special announcement, man. You thought one person was coming, and a whole different person threw you a curveball right there.
Yep.
American Nightmare Cody Rhodes announcing his partner for next week against a match of what's his name, Aaron Solo.
Yeah.
He's gonna be teaming with QT Marshall. And you got the pause between Brock. You thought it was gonna be followed by Lesnar, but they threw you a curveball. Brock Anderson, which I believe is the son of Arn Anderson.
Yep.
Making his debut. I think his overall, is this his wrestling debut or is this his AEW debut?
That I'm not sure of.
I don't know that either.
I want to say wrestling debut potentially.
I mean, it might be because I've heard of him. So.
Yeah, I haven't seen him in the indie scene. I haven't heard any names of Arn Anderson's son wrestling, and what a great way to bring him into the company with Arn Anderson, obviously, as Cody's right-hand man in AEW.
Yeah.
So it's a good way to add on to the Rhodes family, the Nightmare family. So, yeah, I'm excited for this one to see how good Brock Anderson can be compared to his dad. I mean, we all know back in the day, his dad was a fucking great talent and continues to still be part of the business to this day. So let's see if Brock Anderson can live up to the name, man. It's a big name, big shoes to fill right there. Arn Anderson left quite a legacy in wrestling, so let's see if Brock can continue that legacy, man. I personally think he can. His dad was a fucking fantastic wrestler, so the genes had to have gone down there, man. So that's pretty good. And also, Marshall challenged Rhodes to a South Beach strap match on July 7th in Miami. Their next pay-per-view, I think. Yeah, I think that's their next pay-per-view. So that should be interesting.
Yep.
Should be good. Let's see the trios match right here. The Young Bucks and Brandon Coulter versus Pac. Penta El Zero Miedo and Eddie Kingston. I mean, you got 6 great, talented competitors right here, man. This is aimed to be a great match. To be a great match. And it looks like Pac, Penta, and Kingston defeated the Bucks and Coulter, man. I mean, I can only imagine nothing but great things about this match.
That was one of the matches I watched, if not most of all of.
Right.
I think my favorite part of the match was because obviously you have Kingston and Pac who are still there's still tension there.
Right.
But there was a point toward the end of the match that the Bucks and Cutler were on the outside. Like they dumped him on the outside. And Kingston looks at Pac as I can't remember if you could actually see what he said, but it's basically something along the lines like he gestures at him like it's not about us, it's about beating them, pretty much was how it came off. And so Pac goes and hits the ropes, and Kingston does he doesn't hit the ropes fully, but it was the perfectly timed dive, which is why it was smart that Kingston didn't hit the ropes at the same time. He just did like the 3/4 ring, like turnaround.
Right.
And they both double dive out onto the Bucks and Cutler. I was like, it was so beautiful. Like,
I mean, like I said, you don't expect anything less from these guys. You know, the
No,
Bucks, I can hands down, I'll go out and faithfully say the Bucks are a big part of the change of tag team wrestling today. They are the ones that helped evolutionize and really change the word and game of tag team wrestling.
Yeah.
They honestly made it cool again. They really did.
Well, they did for the current generation of wrestling the same kind of thing that like the Rockers or any of those kind of like smaller guys did for wrestling in the late 80s, early 90s.
Right.
Like before that, I mean, even through that, you still had a lot of teams were like big muscle bound guys. You know, you still had the Hulk Hogans who weren't very mobile, and then you had guys like Shawn Michaels and Marty Jannetty,
right?
And the spot was it the Spine Busters, Arn Anderson, and when they came over, like these guys who were athletes and like
they were changing the game at the time when it wasn't nearly as big as it is today. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So they're setting that kind of stepping stone for like the future of tag team wrestling.
Well, I think too. Then the Bucks not only did they change the game as far as tag teams, they've been doing it for so long. Like they haven't broke up. A lot of times you see tag teams that come up and are huge, but then they break up and do individual things. The Bucks, and especially being that they're brothers, have just stayed together for all these years. So I think that has a lot to play in it too. Not only did they change the game because of their talent, but the fact that they stayed together all these years is a positive note on the tag team.
And it's crazy when you think of how young they still are.
Oh yeah.
They still got years to go, man. Guaranteed AEW Hall of Famers one day.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
guaranteed Hall of Famers.
Matt's a few years older than Nick is because he's like, I think my age or a year older or something like that.
Right.
He's like 35, 36, and Nick's only a couple of years behind. So he's like right in the prime. They're both right in the prime of their career.
Yeah.
And they've got, I mean, I know there were a lot of people who wanted to see him go to WWE on like when AEW first started.
Right.
When there was all the uncertainty of what they were doing next.
Right.
And I looked at it, I was like, dude, they still have plenty of time to do all these things, go to WWE or have a working relationship with WWE, whatever happens, like they still got at least like 6 to 8 years before they're even in the range of where they're gonna, unless something major happens, which God forbid, knock on wood. I don't have wood to knock, like, like, they got at least like another 6 to 8 years before they're even close to that category. And when you have guys Jericho who are still doing it in their, 50s, they still got plenty of time to keep building on this legacy and everything that they've got going. And matches like that, like with the Death Triangle and Kingston, are perfect example of
how they can carry their legacy and stuff. Yeah. Exactly. Speaking of tag teams, man, the Pinnacle came back after not being heard from since the Stadium Stampede match at Double or Nothing to send a message to the Inner Circle. Great promo. FTR delivered a promo on Santana and Ortiz. Sean Spears cutting a scratch at Sammy Guevara. Wardlow accepting Jake Hager's challenge for a cage fight next week. And MGF, of course, addressing both Jericho and Guevara. But the Inner Circle, being the misfits that they are in wrestling that we love, came on and interrupted via video from the parking lot where the Pinnacle's limousine was parked. And they busted a Stone Cold Steve Austin and blew that shit up, dude. That's great. They demolished that limousine, and they were just all kind of standing there helpless and shocked about it. Much like how DX, when they watched the DX Express get blown up. I really like these two going at it, and I can see a whole summer of them going at it. Can't wait to see what the next chapter is for this for these two to go, man.
Yep.
TNT Championship match: Miro versus Evo Uno. So obviously the Dark Order been killing it. They've proven time and time again they don't need to be together to win matches. They can do it individually. And every time we think about the Dark Order, we obviously think about the late great Brody Lee. That was his baby right there. He was the leader, and it was going to go places. It really was, and it still is going places.
Yes.
Even they're honoring him the best way they can. But the TNT Championship match, Miro retained the title. Glad to see Miro is getting the push he deserves that he didn't get in WWE.
Yep.
At least later in his career. Early on, he was getting good pushes, but later it was not good.
Well, and I like the current direction they've got him going instead of the best man thing.
Right. Kenny Omega pretty much sending a message to Jungle Boy. Obviously, we know Jungle Boy won the Casino Battle Royale, and he earned the opportunity to face the current champion Kenny Omega in a title match in the future. So Kenny Omega is slowly setting that up. I'm assuming for their next pay-per-view, that's going to be one of the main events we see is Kenny Omega versus Jungle Boy. I am really excited for this match. We both know these are great competitors.
Yep.
Kenny Omega, we know, can carry a match. Hands down, delivers 5-star matches almost any match he's in, dude. I don't care what anyone says. Kenny Omega is the reason that Jericho and Omega was the reason why I turned to independent wrestling, because I knew I had to fucking see that match. I didn't even know who Kenny Omega was, but I knew who Chris Jericho was. And when I saw that match, I'm like, Kenny Omega is a fucking legend, dude. And even as a heel, I love him. You can't hate the guy because he's just so fucking talented in the ring.
I think he's better as a heel.
Yeah, I really do too.
I like him better as a heel. He's one of the cases where him being heel, I want to cheer more than when he's a good guy.
Right.
Way more than when he's a face.
Yeah. But I'm excited for that match. It's going to be a great match. I think we're all going to be we're probably going to go to someone's house to watch that fucking pay-per-view because I think we're going to all start chipping in for the AEW pay-per-view. It's $20 a pop, so let's fucking do it.
Yeah.
Lance Archer, back in action. Of course, he's been coming out a lot lately with Jake the Snake Roberts. Good to see him. I think we talked about him last week of how DDP Yoga helped save his life. And good to see that he's still walking around and staying involved with professional wrestling. Lance Archer took on Chandler Hopkins in the singles competitor match, defeating him with the blackout in a non-competitive match. And I mean, Archer is a fucking monster, to say the least. That guy's fucking built like he was built in a fucking laboratory, and I look forward to watching him. Even though he's kind of like that heel character, you can't help but not watch his matches because he's that.
Well, I like that he is like the definition of a monster.
Yeah.
Like he came out, he wrecked shit, and he walked straight to the back. He didn't do anything else. He just didn't even wait for the ref to raise his hand up and just went straight back up the tunnel. And it was funny because he watched Jake the Snake as he's going back up. Like he stayed on the top part of the entranceway, and Archer wins, and he comes out, destroys, goes and leaves, and Jake the Snake kind of just is like,
all right, I guess that's how we're doing it.
That's what I'd like to see out of a guy like Archer.
Yeah, man.
Where it's destruction.
Hangman Page and Preston Vance versus Team Taz. Now, Team Taz has been on a bit of a roll lately. Brian Cage and Powerhouse Hobbs, man. Brian Cage, talk about another definition of a monster right there, dude. Brian Cage is a fucking beast, dude. And when you put him against, Hangman Page and Dark Order's 10, it's guaranteed to be a fucking good match with Powerhouse Hobbs and Brian Cage, man. I mean, you got all these athletic wrestlers who can carry a fucking show. Hangman Page, I love his gimmick where he just doesn't give a fuck, drinks beer, drinks alcohol, and he's like the modern day in a way. He's the modern day Stone Cold.
Yeah. He's like the cowboy Stone Cold.
Cowboy Stone. Yeah, he really doesn't. I mean, from what he dresses to what he drinks and everything, he doesn't let that go. But a great match overall. Page and Vance defeated Cage and Hobbs. Vance rocked Hobbs with the cutter. Page delivered the buckshot. Lariat for the pinfall victory. Paige joined the Dark Order for a round of beers to close out the show. That's the best way I think of closing out
That's how you do it.
Hell yeah.
AEW show, man. That is this week in professional wrestling. Now, Rob.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
It's time to get amped up.
I'm amped. Are you amped?
I'm amped, man. I want to get amped again. Rob and I recently attended Amped Up Wrestling, a local show in Gardena, California. This was the first time I ever been to a local show, and these two are always so shocked when I say that. But yeah, this was the first time I actually got to experience a local wrestling show. And fuck, was it something.
Tell us how you really feel.
Tell us how I really feel. So for starters, we got there early. Like hella early. We got there at 2 o'clock, so we were watching.
They changed the time on us.
Yeah, they started at 3. We thought it started at like 2, but we got there. We parked in the car for a little bit. We were chilling. We were watching the wrestlers come in. Some of them were running some drills and whatnot, and running how they were going to do their performances and stuff. But eventually we paid. We sat in our seats. If you actually go on YouTube for a lot of their stuff, you could see Rob and I in the front row. Like everything Amped Up has been releasing this past week, we've been sending to each other back and forth. Like, look, we can see each other there. Oh, we're right there. Oh, we're right there. You know. So, it's fun because I think Rob and I, along with the gentleman behind us, were really keeping the energy going, and the whole audience was really energetic. There was this older lady on the other side of the ring who was just talking to wrestlers. Which was
she was awesome.
She was awesome. Going off on wrestlers, and that's. I think that's the fun part with a lot of people. If you guys haven't not been to a local show, I highly suggest it. You're up close and personal with the wrestlers. There's a lot more interaction. They can hear what you're saying. It is a fun time. Rob and I were keeping the energy going. We were talking shit to refs. We were talking shit to the Hills. Even the good guys that we wanted the Hills to win, we were just going. But you know what? In the end of the day, it's great because after the show, we were talking to a lot of the wrestlers, and they're just appreciative for people to just come out and do that kind of stuff because this was their first show back since the pandemic, and a lot of announcements dropped, a lot of great matches, so much stuff. For starters, I think the biggest takeaways from that is there's co-owners now. There's 2 owners. I forget their names, but it was cool to see announcement of new ownership. On top of that, they just got a streaming deal with this website who streams a lot of local wrestling stuff on their website. And both Amped Up and Compton Mania will be streaming on their starting fall 2021. So around September, October, they're going to start streaming all their stuff. I think I don't know if it's going to be live or if it's going to be like a pre-taping and then you see it after. But either way, if you guys are into local wrestling and want to keep with storylines and want to keep up with what's going on in your local area, consider checking out this website. And when I find it again, I'll probably share it.
Was it IWTV?
No, it was something like I forgot what it was called, but
it was a long name. And
it was a long name because he spelled it out like 2 different times. So let's kind of kick off the matches. I'm still learning a lot of these wrestlers' names. Almost all these wrestlers I saw, pretty much all these wrestlers that I saw was the first time I've ever seen them or ever heard of them. The only one I remember is Candy Girl. Because how can you forget that? Great song. She threw out candy. Like,
yeah.
I mean, you know, you can't forget that. A lot of great matches though. Grizzly Cal was there. I remember that name. Former wrestler at NXT, and a lot of surprises too, right, Rob?
Yes. There were some few. I can't remember their names, but a couple wrestlers that were in AEW.
AEW Dark, I think, or something.
Yeah,
AEW
Dark.
And I think they were called like the High Flyers, or I don't remember. Something like that. But, I mean, just the experience we were there, man. I mean, we sat front row. Mind you, this was in a church parking lot, which I thought was fucking awesome. The ring was right there, dude. I mean, you're fucking getting... There was no padding outside. It was all gravel, concrete. And at one point in the main event, motherfucker suplexes one guy onto the fucking concrete. And I'm like, you're fucking nuts. Yeah, no, I'm good. I would say the highlight match of the night for me, though, was the main event. Because you had these 2 wrestlers. One came out and one was like the coach. It kind of reminded me of the Street Profits. And the coach was just going around blowing his whistle at people. We had a lot of interactions with him, and even afterwards, he was really cool. But it's cool to see these guys be in character the entire time, and then after they'll talk with everybody. They'll fucking have a good time. Social media, I've been hitting a lot of them up and just talking with them and saying how much of a good time I had. And for $20 for 3 hours of wrestling, fucking worth it, dude. That's a steal right there, dude. Like,
Yep.
It's a great way to get a wrestling fix if you're waiting for the major promotions to come around. I think I'll go as far as say these were fucking better than the major promotions that I've seen, because they actually are out there trying to prove that they want this, that they want to do this full time, that they want to fucking put on great matches for people on television, and they're busting their ass every single week. Some of them probably working full-time jobs and then doing this on the side. Some of them probably actually traveling and doing this as a full-time job. You know, going from fucking state to state. We've had people come. We were hearing people coming from Chicago to fucking going to Vegas, doing a little Los Angeles tour. Like, it's cool to see a lot of these people go from area to area. But a lot of great matches, a great atmosphere. You could tell everyone was just happy to be there post-pandemic. I had a good time. I think I'm done rambling on. So, Rob, how about you explain your good time?
Well, no, it was awesome. It was awesome to go with you and to be a part of your first time there. I was still shocked that it was your first time there. Watching an indie show, but it was fun. As I've said before, and I've talked to you, Anthony. I would attend these things, on the regular. There was one 5-10 minutes from my house that would go on, like twice a month, sometimes once a month, sometimes. But I was at these events and it was good to be back. I know a few of these wrestlers just from
Rob's better at names with these wrestlers than I am. He's been to a lot of, so he sees all these. This was my first one, so I apologize to any of the wrestlers that are watching. I will learn your names though, because I plan on attending more.
He I'm pretty sure he's gonna
I'm already starting to learn a couple. Jay Washington, Candy Girl. I got a couple of them. It's all good.
But yeah, speaking of Jay Washington, I've watched this guy. I've never seen him wrestle in person. He does comedy. He does a lot of movie stuff. I've watched him for a few years now, doing all these other things. And I knew he was a professional wrestler. Never got to see him wrestle, so this was an opportunity. I got to see him wrestle in person. Very cool dude. Talked to him for a little bit. Me and Anthony were there, chit chatted. He was going out to Vegas. I think next month or next week or something like that.
Yeah.
But and Hopkins and Eli were the main event of the evening. Eli Everfly.
Oh yeah,
that guy's a fucking. Oh my god, he's a performer. That guy's great.
He's so good, and I love the respect he has for the business.
Yeah, you could tell he really wants it. But that guy's got a fucking tongue like Gene Simmons.
Yeah, he does. Really does. I met him for the first time like 6 or 7 years ago at one of the Santino Brothers tribute shows. And it was at the Yost Theater in Santa Ana. And I remember he went up to, like, I was standing there talking to Joey and Jezebel and, all the, their core circle. And he came up to everybody and, shook everybody's hand, was shaking fans' hand. Thanks for coming, everybody, as he just made his rounds. I was like, I like that kid. I
love his theme song, by the way. Insane in the Membrane by Cypress Hill. You're coming out to that song? I'm going to fucking vibe with it.
But yeah, no, Eli, I've been following for a while too. I don't, maybe a little less than you, Rampage, but first time I seen him was at Bar Wrestling. And the dude, like you said, super friendly, he, always, even I had hit him up on social media about this show specifically, just asking him some questions, and he responded, and it was just like, oh cool, he was open to conversation, and even there, the dude is interactive with the crowd, and you like stuff like that from a wrestling show, specifically this type of wrestling show. Even the refs, we're talking to the refs. We're like, ref, his shoulder's not down.
Are you sure that was a 3? That wasn't a 3.
Yeah,
that was a 2. Yeah. Ref 2.
There was even one ref who was like, we were like, oh, that's a slow count, and he was like, oh, well, I'm fat or something. Like he responded back to, so I'm fat. So stuff like that is what I miss. Like going into these indie shows is so, and I always say it's so intimate. Whereas you're right up next to you're right next to the ring. the wrestlers come down, you're right next to them. There's no barrier between you guys. The ring's right there, and they can hear, like Anthony said, they hear what you're saying. And it's cool when like even the heels like respond to you. Like, say, I think Anthony had mentioned something to one of the wrestlers, like he was blowing a whistle and he dropped the whistle. And
I'm
Anthony
like, dude, you dropped your whistle. He goes,
yeah.
Oh, do you have another one? I was like, dude, do I look like I carry whistles around with me? He's like, then shut up. And I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, see, it's stuff like that, just like and those things I honestly like I remember the most. Like in 10 years, I'm gonna remember this stuff.
You can ask anyone I've talked to this last week. I have not stopped talking about that fucking wrestling event. Like, I have convinced people, like, you need to go to this fucking show. Like, it's better than what you see on TV. I promise you. I'm gonna go on and extend an invitation, man. Anyone who's in those businesses who are up and coming and want to get their name out there, we're happy to have you on the show.
Yes.
We want to talk wrestling with you guys. We want to talk, your characters. We want to talk, where you want to go, what's coming up for you, some of your favorite matches, your favorite moments in just wrestling. So,
this is I guess not side note, but fingers crossed for this. Is I've always wanted to interview. I don't know, you might know her, Rampage, or just her name, Heather Monroe.
Okay.
She's one of the Killer Bay. I've always wanted to interview her. I've seen her wrestle a bunch of times. I think she's probably one of the up and coming wrestlers who I think is pretty good. So fingers crossed that one day.
I mean, Candy Girl, if you're watching.
Yeah.
I I remember when she first started training at Santino Brothers.
Yeah, that's why I know the name, because of her.
Man, but I mean, I know Rampage knows Evil. I mean, Evil goes back to the Haunt days.
Players.
Yeah, he goes back to his Haunt days of knowing him and him coming up as a wrestler. There it is, right there. So if we can even, I would love to start getting guests on, even if we don't even talk about wrestling for 1 week. I mean, just to talk with the guests for like an hour and a half, like that'd be so fun. You could tell each one of these competitors are passionate for what they do. They want to do this for a living, and they want to deliver a goddamn great show, and they did just that. So I'm excited. I know the next major one around here that I know of, and there's probably one next week, but the one that I was keeping my eyes on, I don't think I'm going to be able to make it, but I think Rob will be able to attend it, is Compton Mania. It's going to be happening June 28th. In Los Angeles. If you go on their Instagram, they have the flyer. They'll tell you exactly the address and everything. The Ghetto Gauntlet.
Yeah, there you go. I was going to say, what are they doing there, Anthony?
The Ghetto Gauntlet to determine a brand new title, brand new champion. So you're not going to want to miss that. That's going to make history right there to determine a new championship. They actually, at the Amped Wrestling, they had a booth there, and the in displayed was the new championship. So we got to get a firsthand look of what that looks like. It's all black. Looks amazing. Ghetto Gauntlet is the main event, but a ton of other wrestlers that were at Amped Up are going to be there wrestling. Candy Girl's going to be fighting Auntie Heidi. So that's going to be, I mean, she's another scary character, man. She's really, really something, man. She's a very talented wrestler, too. That feud has been apparently going on for a couple months now, so they're going to continue that at the Compton Mania.
And the promo, like if you go to Amped Up's Instagram, you see the promos that these wrestlers are cutting on each other. They're super amazing. Some of them are like funny, and then some of them are just so cool. Like, check them out. Check them out.
So, I mean, I had a fun time. I'm definitely going to be going back to more of these. Hopefully, all three of us can go hit one up one of these days. But it's a lot of fun, a lot of good times, and I can't wait to do another one. But, gentlemen, we didn't even hit 2 hours yet. We actually accomplished something today.
Yeah.
That is going to do it this week for Planet Wrestling, man. I mean, I hope you guys enjoyed our overall reviews of the shows and our review on Amped Up Wrestling. Stay tuned for next week. We're going to be talking Hell in the Cell, some major NXT news that happened this week as far as audiences and whatnot, and some Raw and SmackDown and some more AEW. So stay tuned. Keep it locked down here at Amped Wrestling. Subscribe to the Howling Hour if you guys have not yet done so. That way you can tune in to the video podcast every week, and hit us up on Spotify or wherever you stream podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. We're on there. Just look up Planet Wrestling, and we should pop up. And if you guys enjoy this, leave some likes, subscribe to the Howling Hour, like I said. Leave some comments down below what you guys thought about this week in wrestling. And to all those indie wrestlers out there who want to get the name out there, we'll be happy to have you on the show. We love you guys. You guys put on goddamn great shows.
Yes.
And we look forward to hearing from some of you hopefully soon. So with that being said, I'm your host, Anthony. That's Rob from the Howling Hour. He runs the damn channel. That's Rampage. We're Planet Wrestling Podcast, and we'll see you guys next week.